I'd say the biggest bang for your buck is going to be focusing on review, since that's what you've identified as the area you need to work on. And through that review, through extracting those insights, you're going to be able to avoid making those same mistakes. And so you'll be able to trust your gut on the easier ones, which will help you speed up and aim for that benchmark of solving, say, the first 10 questions in 10 minutes. This is Will, and he is looking to improve his LSAT score from the 150s to the 160s in the next 2 months. My name is Steve Schwartz, and I've been teaching the LSAT for the past 20 years. Today, Will's going to bring me his biggest LSAT challenges, and I'll help him address them as he looks to improve by more than 10 points. Where are you scoring right now, would you say?
150 to the high 150s. It kind of just depends. My top score that I've gotten is a 158.
Got it. And when are you taking the test? What's your target test date?
I'm hoping October.
October. Okay, good. So we've got roughly 2 months between now and then. And how many hours per week could you devote to your prep?
I'm shooting for like my base amount. It's 3 hours a day. I'm going to try to do more than that. But like when school starts, some days are great, some days are not so great. So I'm going to guess probably anywhere from like 1 to 5 hours a day, hopefully.
Good. So 1 to 5 hours a day over the course of 5-6 days a week, let's say, for 2 months. That's a good amount of time, especially if you are leveling up your approach by getting more personalized feedback. And you will, of course, get that through the semi-private sessions that we have 4 nights a week. You'll be getting more guidance through the personalized day-by-day study plan as well. Okay, and what's the biggest challenge you're facing in your prep right now, would you say?
Probably timing, because I feel like when I'm drilling, even with the more difficult questions, it's not always the case, but even with the more difficult questions, I can get them right if I take plenty of time to, understand the stimulus, understand the question, understand the answer choices. I can figure out the answer, but under 35 minutes, solving enough questions that's hard.
Now let's be real. Timing is the #1 thing that makes students feel like they're bad at the LSAT. They'll say, I get it when I'm not timed, but when the clock's running, I fall apart. And I get it. It's demoralizing. You know you're smart, you understand the concepts, but somehow, under pressure, everything short circuits. It's like your brain goes into airplane mode right when you need Wi-Fi. Here's the truth. That doesn't mean you're bad at the LSAT, it means your brain hasn't automated the process yet. Think about driving. When you first learn, every move takes conscious effort. Mirror, signal, check blind spot, and merge. But once you've done it a few hundred times, you're merging on the freeway while you're sipping coffee and you're planning dinner. It's automatic, and that's what you're building with LSAT timing. So if you feel like everything makes sense until the timer starts, here's what's happening. You're still in the manual mode of LSAT processing. You understand the why, but not fast enough to do it under pressure. And you're still treating every question like it's brand new, instead of recognizing the repeatable patterns. Now, what most students do at this point is panic. They double down on full-length exams. They'll say, I just need to grind out more practice tests. But that's like saying, I'm not ready to run a marathon, so I'll just run marathons every day until I get better. No, that's not how it works. That's a recipe for burnout, not progress. Here's what actually works for our students. We break it down. Start with untimed sets to build accuracy. Then move into timed 3-question sprints to develop speed. Layer in section timing drills like the 10 in 10 strategy for logical reasoning. And finally, simulate full test pressure, but only once the foundation is there. We're not just training knowledge, we're training reflexes. And that's what most people miss. The real win is when you see a question and instantly go, oh, it's that kind of flaw again. I've seen this exact move in Prep Test 143, question 17. You're not solving from scratch, you're recognizing patterns, skipping the noise, and using built-in shortcuts you developed through reps. So if timing's your issue, don't beat yourself up. Don't call yourself slow. Just recognize what it actually means. Your process isn't automatic yet, and the fix isn't panic, it's deliberate, focused, layered training. You've already built accuracy, and now you're learning fluency. Different skill, same brain, and yes, it's 100% doable. And what resources have you been using in the past?
So I used Kaplan for a little while last year. It was okay, but I don't think it worked for me great. And then I also tried the LSAT Demon. It helped a little bit, but they seemed a little smarter than me. And that's just what it felt like. They were not big on teaching any kind of theory. They were just basically like, well, just drill every day. They did say, dig into the answer choices and review, like that's what you guys say as well. But they didn't go into great detail about how I'm supposed to do that and like what kind of like connections I'm supposed to be making between like the answer that I chose, give a detailed explanation about why it was wrong and how am I supposed to not make this mistake again in the future. That's one of the things that gets me is like, how do I not make this mistake again?
Totally hear you on that. Yeah, it's all about getting to the root cause of the issues you're facing so that you can avoid falling for those same tricks and traps. And so it comes down to process and getting down to the root cause through your analysis. And that is the killer combination of both theory and application. So that's what we do with that Socratic review method, digging down to the root causes through a refined and repeatable process to structure your analysis, your post-game analysis for every practice test you do, every timed section that you do. Let's kill this lie right now. If I'm struggling, it must mean I'm not smart enough for the test. No, absolutely not. That feeling, the one where you look around and think everybody else has it figured out except you, that's not intelligence talking, that's imposter syndrome mixed with LSAT panic. Here's what's really going on. You're early in the process. And yes, it feels terrible. You look at Reddit threads with people casually throwing around 175s, posting their color-coded study plans, and you think, what's wrong with me? I'll tell you what's wrong. Nothing. You're not behind, you're just building the foundation. The LSAT is not a test of your raw intelligence. It's not measuring your GPA. It's not seeing if you took linear algebra. It's measuring how well your brain can recognize patterns. Patterns it's never been trained to recognize before. And like any new skill, whether it's coding, weightlifting, learning French, the first few weeks are gonna suck. Let's go even deeper here. When we work with students, we expect them to feel like this in the beginning. I'd actually be concerned if they didn't feel that way. Why? Because if you don't feel confused early on, it means you're not pushing hard enough. You're still in the easy wins zone, and that's not where the breakthroughs happen. Now let's reframe this. Think about what happens when someone is starting strength training. The first week, they can't finish a full set. The bar feels heavy and their form is a mess. Do they say, I'm clearly not meant for this, guess I'll never get stronger? No, they keep showing up. They get a coach. They fix their form. They recover. And guess what? A month later, they're lifting double what they started with and wondering why they ever doubted themselves. Same with the LSAT. The students we see make the biggest jumps, like 10, 20, even 30 points, they're never the ones who felt confident on day one. They're the ones who say, I'm confused, but I'm curious. I'm frustrated, but I'm still showing up. I'm not there yet, but I'm not giving up. That's the real skill. It's resilience. Not perfect logic, not an Ivy League degree, just the willingness to slow down and actually learn how to learn. So no, you're not stupid, you're not behind, you're not doomed. You're just in the early stage. And the sooner you stop comparing yourself to some Redditor's highlight reel and you start focusing on your own trajectory, the faster you'll make real progress. This phase is not the end, it's the start. And if you embrace it fully, everything else gets easier from here. Now, with these programs, were you able to talk to anybody and get feedback on your approach? Or was it more drilling and videos and group programs?
I was able to talk to a tutor for a while during Kaplan, but it was still kind of early in my prep. So I think it was, I'm not sure exactly how useful it was. It felt like I had to just do more of the questions and see more of the test before I was able to ask like really good questions about like, what are we doing differently? What was this way I solved the question wrong? It was just, it felt like it was early days and I was just kind of figuring out the test. The LSAT Demon, I didn't talk to anybody. It was just one of the plans I was signed up for. It was basically just videos and drilling.
Let's say you do 50 LSAT questions today and you miss 18 of them. You look at the answer key. You say, got it. Okay, next. That's not studying, that's grading yourself for sport. And you're not alone. Tons of people do this. They think if they just do enough drills, the score will magically rise. Like somehow, sheer volume is going to teach their brain to avoid trap answers. But let's be honest, if you're missing the same kinds of questions over and over again, what exactly is the point of doing more of them? That's like shooting 100 basketball free throws with your eyes closed and expecting your aim to improve. Spoiler, it won't. You don't learn from the drill itself. You learn from the debrief. The real gains happen in the 5 minutes after you miss a question. And this is where most people go wrong. They look at the right answer and go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense now," and then they move on. That is not review. That is passive recognition. That's like watching someone do a pull-up and saying, "Yeah, I could probably do that too." But until you actually try it, you haven't learned anything. So what should review actually look like? Here's the checklist we use with our students. First, you ask, what made the wrong answer tempting to me? What made the right answer unappealing to me at first? Why is this answer right? Not just why is the other one wrong? And how can I flag this pattern the next time it shows up? This is the stuff that sticks. This is how you start building pattern recognition instead of chasing explanations. And look, it doesn't have to take hours. Even reviewing 5 hard questions deeply is more powerful than drilling 50 without thinking. It's not about volume, it's about insight. When we work with students, we call this playing the long game. Because sure, you could blast through 3 sections today and feel productive. Or you could spend an hour digging into why a most strongly supported question baited you with that tempting trap and never fall for it again. That one insight is worth at least 5 points over time. So stop using your score as the only measure of progress. Instead, start asking, what did I learn from this? Because if you're not learning something new from the questions you miss, you're not studying, you're just practicing being stuck. Real quick guys, if you're just getting started with your LSAT prep or you're looking for a quick refresher, you can grab your free easy LSAT cheat sheet linked below this video. It's jam-packed full of concrete actionable tactics you can take and apply to your LSAT prep for a quick score boost, and it's 100% free, so you can grab your copy below. And now, back to the show. Now, when you do your review process, what does your current review structure look like when you're analyzing questions that give you trouble?
So currently what I do is I basically just kind of try to redo the question without the answer choice that I picked. So it's basically just look at it again, see what did I miss? Did I miss a word or something like that? It was pick an answer choice that was too strong or something like that, or something that wasn't supported. Try to find the answer choice that is correct, and then try to connect it in my head. It's like, why did I get, suck it into the wrong choice? And then why did I not pick the right choice? And then I don't necessarily write any of it down. It's just kind of in my head. I'm not sure if that's a good practice or not, if I should be writing this stuff down so I can make the connections later.
Okay, yeah, so I would definitely recommend writing it down just to force yourself to articulate it clearly, because when you do it in your head, it's too easy to think to yourself, oh, I get it now, and then you move on to the next thing. But the thing is that until you can truly articulate what mistakes you're making and why, you may end up just making the same mistake again. And so articulating it forces you to paraphrase the argument to make sure you fully understand it, and then to also articulate what specifically about the wrong answer choice might have been tempting for you, and what specifically about the right answer might have been unappealing. And then you can also articulate the key insight or takeaway that you will then apply in the future to avoid making the same mistake again. Because you're documenting it over the course of reviewing 10, 20, 30 questions, patterns will start to emerge. And then you'll be able to see if those patterns are with regard to question stem types or methods of reasoning or particular answer choice traps. But if you try to do it in your head, you're not capturing that data and it's kind of going into the ether.
Do you write a log out for the questions that you get right as well, or just the questions that you get wrong? Like, what would you recommend?
Well, definitely the ones you get wrong. And then for the ones that you get right, if there was any doubt around it, if you were down to 2 and you guessed and got lucky, but it easily could have gone the other way, I would review those as well. But if you got it right and you were confident and there were no questions around it, I wouldn't spend the time. I think there's probably higher leverage areas to devote that time, given that time is always limited, right? So I would do more questions in order to get more wrong or to have more moments of doubt that you could then analyze. I mean, you've got thousands of LSAT questions, plenty of opportunities to rack up mistakes to then learn from, because every question you get wrong is an opportunity to learn something new.
And then what do you think is like the best way to like compile this and then be able to like easily see it so I can like it affects my practice going forward. Like one girl in the program, she had an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. I'm not good with Excel or anything like that, but can I just like write down, like have like a wrong answer log or a log of questions I'm not 100% sure on, and then just go through back through that, maybe every day, look at a couple questions that I got wrong in the past. What did I miss? And then what do I take forward?
Definitely. So there are 3 options I like. There's physical notebook, there's Google Doc, and then there's spreadsheets. And so if you're not a spreadsheet kind of person, I would probably go for Google Doc, just because when you do it digital, you then have a template you could then copy, paste, and repeat every single time, so that you're noting the date, the prep test number, section number, question number, a section for stimulus, a section for question type, a section for the wrong answer you picked, and then for the right answer. And so every time you're filling in those same sections.
And what would that look like for RC? It's basically the same, right?
Yeah, for RC, it's the same, just instead of stimulus, you have a passage. And maybe you'll have more notes related to your analysis of the passage, since it's, of course, a lot bigger. So you could break it down maybe paragraph by paragraph, for example. But everything that applies the same. Let's talk about the most common silent score killer on the LSAT. It's not logical reasoning flaws. It's not misreading reading comp. It's this: thinking you can review everything in your head. You finish a section, you miss 5 questions, you think, oh yeah, I see what I did wrong there. I misread that part. Got it. Won't do that again. Cool story. But you will do that again. Why? Because mental review is just code for, I don't want to deal with this right now. Your brain wants to move on. It hates friction. It wants to go back to drilling or rewatching explanation videos or checking social media. But that friction, the moment where it doesn't click right away, is where the real learning happens. And if you don't write it down, you're skipping the most valuable part of your study session. Now, I'm not saying you gotta build a 60-slide PowerPoint presentation on each missed question, but I am saying this: you need a system. Here's what we recommend for our students, and yes, it sounds simple, but it's insanely effective. Open a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. Title it something like LSAT mistakes that shouldn't have happened. Every time you miss a question and truly understand why, write it out in your own words. No copy pasting from explanations forums. No, I just misread it. That's not good enough. Here's what we want instead. What was the trap? What made it look good even though it was wrong? What's the label you can apply to this kind of mistake in the future? And the million-dollar question, what will you do differently next time? This document becomes your LSAT playbook. And over time, it gets more valuable the more mistakes you make. In fact, when we see our students start making progress, we can usually trace it back to the moment they started reviewing like this, deliberately, obsessively, and yes, even a bit messily. You don't need it to be perfect, you do need it to be real. Because what you're doing here isn't just reviewing old questions, you're training your future self. The next time you see a most strongly supported or sufficient assumption or we can accept question, your brain doesn't have to start from scratch. It already knows what to watch out for. You already labeled it, you already wrote it down. So let's make this simple. If you're not reviewing on paper or on a screen, you're not really reviewing, you're just doing damage control. And you deserve better than that, especially if you're putting in the time.
And then I don't have my plan yet. Like I said, I gave you like the amount of hours that I think I can study. So say I have a busy day or something like that, and I only have an hour, I only have 2 hours or something like that. If I'm looking at my plan and I have this amount of work to do in a day, if I follow the plan, what should my focus be? Like, should it be just the drilling, or it should be attending one of the classes and doing the questions that go along with the class?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all valuable. The question is, what do you personally need? So what do you see as being your weak areas?
Probably just like learning from my mistakes.
The review process.
Yeah.
So then we have a lot of lessons inside the program specifically on Socratic review. And so I would look at some of those. I can have the team send you some specific lessons where I walk through review for both logical reasoning and reading comp. So I would start there. And then I would go to class. I would do the questions in advance that are posted on the agenda. And then when you come to class, you could ask about review. You could ask about how to analyze. You say you chose this particular wrong answer. What could you have done differently in your process to have better avoided that mistake? Now, let's say you're busy, like actually busy. Job, school, family, laundry that's been in progress for 3 days. You open your calendar and the only free time you see is 9:40 to 10:45 p.m. And you start to think, what's even the point? I don't have hours to study like those people with no jobs and unlimited snacks. Here's the truth. You can make massive progress on the LSAT in just 60 minutes a day if you use it right. The problem is that most people waste their precious time trying to do too much at once. They'll say, I'll knock out a full section. Oh wait, maybe I should review first. Or should I start that new drill set? And before they know it, 45 minutes are gone and they've half finished 3 different things. Here's what to do instead, and this is what we guide our students to do in our personalized day-by-day study plans when the time is tight. First, you pick one focus, that's it. Not 3, not a playlist of sections from every category, just one single high-leverage task. If I had only 60 minutes, here's what I might do. First, pick out 3 to 5 questions you missed recently. I'm talking about questions that bugged you, the ones you circled, the ones you kinda understood, the ones where you guessed right but had no idea why. Then you deep dive those questions. You don't just look at the right answer and move on. You're asking, what trap did I fall for? What was the test maker trying to tempt me with? And what could I do differently next time to avoid it? This is not about getting it right in hindsight. It's about rewiring your instincts. Then you log it. Take just a minute and write a quick takeaway in your mistake log, where you say, for example, I got baited by a strengthener that didn't touch the conclusion. Next time I will verify the link. That's it. You just turned 60 minutes into a meaningful study session. You fixed a blind spot. You trained your pattern recognition, and you left a breadcrumb for your future self. And if you do that consistently, 5 days a week, 3 questions a day, that's 60 quality reviews per month. Tell me that won't boost your score. So, if you're low on time, don't stress about finishing a section. Don't cram, don't multitask, don't study while also texting your group chat about how much you hate reading comp. Just zoom in. Small doses, well done, beat big chaotic cram sessions every time. 1 hour is enough. You've just got to treat it like gold. Real quick guys, a lot of you have been asking me how you can be featured in one of these LSAT study breakdowns and get feedback on your approach. The only way is to join one of my LSAT coaching programs. You can check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. And now back to the show.
And then I kind of had just kind of a general question about what is your guys' policy on like the LSAT writing portion? Do you recommend putting in any amount of significant timing, or just do a couple practice exams or whatever, practice under 50 minutes or whatever, 50 minutes time conditions, and then just take it?
Yeah, so the writing sample is not scored. I wouldn't devote nearly as much attention to it as the scored portions of the LSAT. Get yourself into the 165 range, and then you could think a little bit about it. Just because it's unscored doesn't matter nearly as much. I mean, we have material on it, but I would lock down the scored portions of the LSAT first.
I've watched some of your videos on timing. So generally I'm able to get outliers, but I'm generally able to get like the first 10 to 15 questions correct. And then usually as I get into like the danger zone or whatever, then I start getting more and more questions wrong. What is the best way to just get faster at those first 10 to 15 so that I can have more time to get into those harder questions and not miss them?
So you're talking about the first 10 to 15 questions, just
Right.
getting more of them right?
Yeah, faster.
Faster. I mean, accuracy comes with better understanding.
Sure.
It's as simple as that.
time.
And so if you can build your confidence, if you could build your depth of understanding of how to analyze these easier questions so that you can trust your gut, you're then going to be able to go faster on them and not have to second guess yourself. Then you'll be able to devote more time for the tougher questions that truly need it. You could try going faster now and see if your accuracy drops or not. Maybe it won't.
Yeah, I tried doing that this morning and I think it sort of worked. I get to one question that I should have got. That's the worst. It's when there's a question that I should have missed and I like missed a word or something like that.
I'd say the biggest bang for your buck is going to be focusing on review, since that's what you've identified as the area you need to work on. And through that review, through extracting those insights, you're going to be able to avoid making those same mistakes. And so you'll be able to trust your gut on the easier ones, which will help you speed up and aim for that benchmark of solving, say, the first 10 questions in 10 minutes. Let's talk about this idea of trusting your gut on the LSAT. At first glance, it might sound like a terrible strategy. Like, are we really supposed to be taking the most important test of our careers based on a feeling? But here's the thing. When people say trust your gut, they don't mean guess randomly and hope for the best. That's just gambling. I'm talking about a calibrated gut. One that's been trained by hours of smart review, deep pattern recognition, and brutal honesty about your own mistakes. Think about chefs. A great chef can taste a sauce and say, needs more acid. They don't need to measure it or check a pH balance. Their gut just knows because they've done it 10,000 times. Same thing on the LSAT. Let's say you're on question 7 of logical reasoning. You read the stimulus and instantly think, okay, this is causal. They're assuming correlation equals causation. And boom, your gut just diagnosed the flaw. Not by magic, but by repetition. And that's the key. You can't fake a trustworthy gut. You have to earn it. So with our students, we treat gut instinct like a muscle. It starts off weak, unreliable. You don't trust it and you shouldn't. But once you've logged a couple hundred questions and you've dissected why each wrong answer fooled you, your brain starts to light up when it sees the same trick again. That's not guessing, that is speed through certainty. And here's where it pays off. Let's say you're stuck between B and E. Old you would freeze, reread everything 3 times, second guess the stimulus, and waste 2.5 minutes. But trained you? You recognize that B has the same language you've seen a dozen times before in trap answers. You can't explain it perfectly in the moment, but your gut says nope. And you move on. Confident, efficient, and on to the next question. That is the power of a trained gut. It's not emotional. It's not mystical. It's data compressed into intuition. So here's how to build it. Review every question you get wrong or feel unsure about. Write out the trap. Not just why it was wrong, but why it fooled you. Label it, tag it, and create your own mental LSAT dictionary. Like, oh, that's a bad causal jump again. Do this enough times, and your gut will start to speak up before your brain does. You'll start skipping over answer choices with confidence, not panic. You'll move faster without sacrificing accuracy, and you'll stop wasting time second-guessing questions you already understood. So yes, you can trust your gut, but only if you've trained it. Don't wait for confidence to magically appear. Build it, earn it, and let it carry you through the test like a shortcut your competitors never developed.
You don't think October is too late, right, in the application process?
No, not at all. October is early in this cycle.
Okay, because I just want to make sure that if I am, I shoot for my goal score of 160 to 165, and I want to get some scholarship money out of one of these schools, it's not going to be all gone at that point, is it?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, especially if you apply with the score. If you got the score, then, and you're early enough in the cycle, if you're applying anytime this calendar year, you're on the earlier side. Every week, like clockwork, someone panics and asks me, is it too late to take the LSAT in October and still apply this cycle? Let me make this crystal clear. No, it is not too late. In fact, for a lot of you, October might be the smartest possible time to take it. Let's unpack this. Law school admissions doesn't work like getting into a nightclub. There's no velvet rope with a bouncer saying, sorry, we hit capacity. It is a rolling admissions process. Applications open in September, but that doesn't mean they fill up the class right away. In reality, law schools don't start making most of their serious decisions until late October or even November. Some schools even wait until after the holidays before touching the bulk of applications. So if you're targeting the October LSAT and you're using that extra time to prep well and make a real score jump, you're not behind, you're right on time. Now let's do a quick thought experiment. Let's say you're deciding between taking the LSAT in September and scoring a 159 or taking it in October and scoring a 166. Which one do you think admissions prefers? Which one gets you into better schools? Which one gets you better scholarships? The answer is obvious, and I've seen it happen again and again with my students. They push back their test by 6 to 8 weeks, they stick to a structured plan, and they walk in with more confidence and a dramatically higher score. Suddenly, they're not just getting in, they're getting paid to attend law school. So here's the real question you should ask. Can I make real improvement between now and October? If the answer is yes, and it probably is, then waiting is not a risk, it is a massive opportunity. And look, I get it, the internet loves to scream, apply early, but early panic is not better than smart timing. Early with a weak score you get ignored. Later, with a stronger score, you get offers. So, if you're on the fence, take a breath, forget all the noise, and make the decision that gives you the best shot at a 5 to 10 point jump.